Okay, good morning. It is a little bit after 10 o'clock on Saturday, the 11th of October, 2025. This is the duly noticed meeting of the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers. I'm Peter Halley, the chairman. We go through a roll call to establish a quorum. On my roll call, so Kathy Baird is here. Scott Elm
Here.
here. Gary Bellers here. Peter Kahn.
Here.
Great. Lou Bassano is here.
Yep.
Don Green.
Here.
Great. Pamela Swan. Okay. Jean Briskman, I see, is here. Donna Martino.
Here.
Great. Michael Cody, I think, is traveling. Lynn Felisby is also at a different meeting today. Steve Perlman.
Here.
And Bill Gardner. Here, and myself, Peter Halley. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. So we have a quorum.
Add Doyster to that.
Excuse me?
Add Patty Doyster.
Oh, Patty. For some reason, she's not on my list here. I apologize. Patty?
Here.
Great. Okay.
By the way, I thought your AI generated definition of our committee was really interesting. I enjoyed it.
Well, I think my query was something like, my initial query was, why was this committee formed? And then you could go more deeply, and that thing popped up, and it turns out, the why the committee formed, and who knows whether any of this is correct. But it seems to have some semblance of correctness to it.
Yeah, that's good.
It basically is sort of, again, we're not the FinCom, but financial issues are, a major moving factor for the creation of this committee and how they might be of concern to non-voting taxpayers. So I just thought it was worthwhile sharing, because I know we have, gone back and forth on what we should be looking at and what we shouldn't be looking at in the past. And while this is not authoritative, it's thought-provoking. And so in any event, to shed some light. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, and second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Let me also give the the warning. This is being recorded. Anything you say will be on the recording. Anything in the background of your video, if your video is on, may be visible, and for people to act accordingly. We will have public comment. It's on the agenda. It's toward the end of the meeting, but we will invite comment as we are discussing the various items on the agenda. So with that said, may I have a motion to approve the draft minutes for our last meeting of September 13th?
With corrections.
With corrections, yes. Was everybody on for the 2 corrections that need to be made? Number 1 is that paragraph 4, I think, of the draft refers to approval of meetings from September 13th, which is obviously today, and was meant to say, and will be corrected to say, of our August meeting. And then just the numbering after paragraph 7 is off by 1, and that will be corrected so that we only have 11 paragraphs rather than what appears to be 12 paragraphs. So with those corrections,
I'll second the motion.
Okay, good. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that's done, and let's get to the agenda. And Donna, I think Town Council Study Committee had a meeting in the last week or so, and
Yes,
yeah, maybe bring
that's correct. It basically was to wrap up the committee. We met on Wednesday afternoon, our usual, and we reviewed the charter and the wrap up, if you will. Joe, our chair, Joe Grouse, is going to present it to the select board. So we are officially finished with what we were charged to do. There are there is one member plus other unknown people who would like to continue discussing the town council idea, and we wish them well. It doesn't seem, my opinion, based on what was done and so forth, now is not the time to do it. The voters clearly said they were not ready for this idea.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for your work on the committee on all of our behalves, and things sometimes work out and sometimes don't work out. But I think if nothing else, what this is an idea that needed to be considered. It was considered. It's not a popular idea, and now we move on, and perhaps it'll be revisited at some time again in the future if it seems appropriate. But you don't get progress without making some effort, and I appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Well
representing
spoken.
us on the
Thank you,
board.
Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donna, for taking on that work. for
Oh, you're
representing us.
welcome. It was a very interesting experience, and I'm glad I did it. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, good. So the next item is the Our Island Home Survey. Let me explain briefly what that is and what it's about. And in case you have not read about it in one of the local papers or one of the local announcements, the issue remains what to do with the Our Island home and how to proceed. And there is a survey. Not exactly clear to me who the sponsor of the survey is. I think it's probably the committee that has been the proponent of the rebuild option. But it's a survey that's open for everybody to take, both taxpayer and non-taxpayer. And it asks you to identify yourself as such in the survey answers. And I think it has maybe three very, very simple questions. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a week or two since I looked at it. Should we rebuild at Sherburne Commons? Should we repair the existing facility as is? Or should we do nothing, I think is the third option. And so we received a communication just basically saying, would we communicate that to non-voting taxpayers? We, of course, this is our only real method of communication with anybody outside this group, which is the public meeting. And so, would suggest that members of the committee, if they are so interested, take a look at the survey and decide how they are thinking about this. And any member of the public who is listening ought to take a look at this too. I think if you just sort of Google, Our Island, Nantucket Our Island Home Survey, it will become available to you. My own view of the survey is obviously, if those are the three questions, it's pretty simplistic, and I'm not sure how much one can take from the answers. My guess will be most people want to see Our Island home on the island, but the real issue, like a lot of real issues, are what are the costs and you look at the benefits and what are the costs and how are you going to pay for it. And that has apparently been what has been the stumbling block for moving forward on the current plan. There is no new plan that I can see to consider, and perhaps it would be better for somebody to develop a new plan, given the old one was rejected, and then have a survey. But this is not, I'm not running the show, and far from it. So if there's any discussion of this, the survey and participation, whatever, you're welcome to talk. Gary.
Thanks, Peter. We did take a position previously with respect to the our Old Island home, but that was because there was a particular financial proposal before us, which most of us felt was improvident. And as you recall, based on that particular proposal, we made the decision to support the Finance Committee's recommendation that it was inappropriate or improvident for the town to go forward on such a massive expenditure. In connection with this particular survey, which has no financial connection at all, my personal view is that our committee, the Advisory Committee for Non-Voting Taxpayers, ought not take a position on it as a committee, but that we ought to encourage each of us and all non-voting taxpayers who have a view to focus and to answer the survey themselves individually without need for us having to take a position, because without the numbers, it doesn't help us to focus on what impact it could have on long-term financial issues of Nantucket. That's my view.
Okay. Just to be clear, what we agreed with was not the Finance Committee, Gary. We agreed with the Capital.
You're right. You're
Capital
correct.
Commitments Committee, for want of a better
Correct.
word.
You're correct.
And I think the current chair of the Finance Committee is the former chair of that committee.
Yes.
Nowadays. So that anybody else have a view?
I agree with Gary.
Yeah. And Lou, I think you had your finger up.
Yes, I did. I think what we need, rather than just a survey, is more information on the choices and the costs associated with those choices that are out there. This survey is a little bit not deep enough, if you will. We need more information. And taking a survey of this type, you don't really have the information that you need. And the major information and major stumbling block has been cost. Give me a menu that has different costs with different proposals, and then we can make a decision. This survey is not a good survey.
Yeah, I must say that I am of the same mind as Lou is, and you say to yourself, well, why do they have this survey, and why are the survey questions the questions that are on the survey? This survey does not really test what people would be willing to vote for. It just basically says, do you think there should be an on-island home or not? And that's that. And I don't think they need a survey to answer that question. But because there are a few details in the questions, one being, basically asking you to approve the prior plan without saying it's in detail the prior plan. It seems to me that it's a survey that's designed to be used to say that, X% of those responding think we should move to Sherburne Commons. Without giving, as Lou mentions, a a range of ways of approaching this that is broader than what they have done, it seems to me that can lead people to false conclusions as to what the opinions of the island are. I've done a bit of surveying and litigation of surveying in the past, and typically you test your questions to find out whether you're likely to achieve a survey that actually has any validity. And I don't know that these questions have been tested and so on and so forth. So my own view, I guess, is that I'm not too keen on answering this survey, but others may be. So Don, you have your hand up. I see there are a whole bunch of hands up, and I apologize if I sort of interjected with hands up. I need to figure out how to see everybody's hands at once.
Donna was up first, just,
Oh, okay. I agree with what's been said so far. Did I miss, or who is responsible for the survey?
it's the town. The town of
The
Nantucket.
select board?
The communications director put it out. I don't know who's commissioned it. It just came from the town.
Okay, thank you.
Patty's next.
Thanks. I have to say that while I agree with what's been said, we don't have a lot of opportunity to voice concerns or whatever, address concerns. And any chance we get, I would take advantage of it. I think you're well said to have all of us chime in as individuals, but I also think it would say something that our committee is on this, and rightfully so. And the other thing is that I would love us to again and again and again press this idea that the current political situation, nursing homes are going to be underfunded. At least it looks that way, and that has to be in the equation. And anything that the town comes up with, that needs to be addressed in their proposal. And again, kind of just needling them with that thought. So again, more we say, the better, because we're supposed to be representing non-voters.
Okay,
Scott?
Scott?
Our remit is to advise the town manager and the select board. This strikes me as something that maybe a friendly note might be useful. This strikes me as as a imperfect survey. There is, you only have so many opportunities to survey people. You could develop some real information here, and while we don't have specific proposals, we kind of know what one of them looks like. You could get a sense for, are people on board for 130, 140 million? Would 75 million be okay? Maybe you express it per bed. There's lots of things to be done, but there's sort of, this is a point where there's an opportunity to develop some good information in the community about what people want, and not have a survey which really seems to be lacking in, a lot of the real information quality in terms of what people are going to want to make a decision about here. So, perhaps a friendly note be what we're supposed to do.
Be happy to draft a friendly note. I'm a friendly person. Don Green?
Yes, I was wondering share comments, who served in there? Is it at the present time?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Who is served in I don't know now, the name is skipping, Sherwood Commons, the apartments?
I don't know that much about
Because
that much about it. Yeah,
I would think there'd be a
the
greater.
senior community, and I think it makes. I don't know what the import of your question is. Other
Well, I'll tell
than
you.
belong there. Yeah.
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
because I think there's probably a greater need for assisted living on this island than there is for nursing home care, or might be equal. And assisted living can support itself because rent is charged, or people own like a condominium. And when people lose their activities of daily living, up to 3 you can get along with, but once it's 3 or more, then you're a nursing home candidate. So I think there needs to be a broader look at serving the senior community and what the actual needs are instead of just money to build a building. I mean, I think that should come first.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I went actually to our island home this summer and had a tour and spoke with the current manager of that home and what else, and formed my own opinions. Uh, and but I'm not an expert in this area. I'm just reacting as a possible future consumer of services like these. So for those of you still on the island, I would suggest you go over there and take a look and perhaps answer some of the questions that Don has just posed. Yeah.
As a physician, I have visited dozens of nursing homes as a visiting doctor. So, people who are in nursing homes really need complete care. They really can't function on their own. But before that, they can with a little help.
Okay. So it's my understanding, but as I say, I'm not an expert, and anyway, that our island home serves a variety of levels of occupant, and it is both, I think, capable of doing skilled nursing and some what I would think of as sort of high-level assisted living, and so on. So I think it's a multi-function type of an enterprise, but I could be wrong about that. And so I'm sort of speaking out of school here.
Well, you should
Sure.
know.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
Gene,
it's not an assisted living facility. It's both a skilled nursing facility providing long-term care and also providing rehabilitation services. So that if you have your knee replaced, but you're unable to be taken care of at home, you can go in there for a week or 2 weeks. And but it's not assisted living, and they can't. If they did assisted living, their reimbursement from Mass Health would be very low, and they would be unable to operate at all. But
Medicaid
going
doesn't
back,
pay for
I
assisted living.
think it was a ridiculous survey, and it's unclear what the objective of it was. But to try to expand on a survey like that by asking people would they go for it if it were $100,000 a bed, or $200,000 a bed, or $500,000 a bed, or whatever, or to try to add numbers to that and do that as a general survey is a bloody waste of time, because most people don't have any idea. Yeah, it's better if it were only $100,000 a bed than if it were $200,000 a bed, but nobody would really know whether those are realistic numbers or not. Or so I think if they want to do it, I can only imagine the reason for doing this survey is for the town fathers to sort of, and mothers to sort of figure out in what direction they might want to head and where they think they might be able to get the greatest number of votes come some town meeting going forward. But for us to get involved in this, I think it's a waste of time, truthfully.
so anybody else? Gary, I see your hands is up again.
Yeah, just one last word. When individuals fill out the survey, as I did, there's room for comments. And I think that because so many people feel the same as I did, which is without looking at what kind of numbers and costs might rise from any of these choices, survey makes no sense. That's what I wrote in some of the miscellaneous comments, said, what other thoughts do you have? That's where you put it in. So let the town fathers know that sending a survey like this without any meat on the bones isn't really helpful, and that it's not going to really lead to any kind of consensus from any of the groups they're trying to survey. And there's room in the survey for people to make those comments, which I think they should do when they respond individually.
So I guess then, Gary, one could respond to the survey by not answering any of the questions and just making comments.
No, I responded to all of them, and then they say, what other thoughts do you have? And I said, it's really unfair to ask these kind of questions where there are no parameters for anyone to figure out what kind of burden or cost might lead to the pressure on the community, and things like that. So I answered the questions, but there was room for additional comments, and that's where I made it clear that I thought that the survey was not very useful in really getting people to understand what the implications of their choices are.
Okay. So,
and if everybody wrote the same thing, maybe the town father would say, gee whiz, this was a lousy survey. We shouldn't really take anything from it because everyone feels the same way. They have no idea what they're voting for or against.
okay. I see Christina Strand had her hand up. Member of the public, I think.
No, I think she just was doing a thumbs up.
Oh, okay, good. That's very kind of her. So if somebody here, for example, me, is to write a friendly letter, I am not sure exactly what that would say. It would probably say something like, we don't think this is a useful survey because it does not include the sufficient facts about what people, what the costs of the various programs are and whatever, which would be similar to what I guess we've said in the past.
I'm not sure they think that would be a friendly letter.
Yeah, exactly. That's
maybe you
the
should
point.
say,
And
maybe you should save it for another opportunity.
yeah. So maybe we say nothing and just people who want to respond to it, and
Recommend people respond to it.
we publicized it. And more importantly, Gary has pointed out something that I had not seen because I didn't respond, is that there is a comment section, and so people are free to give whatever advice they want to give on this survey. Okay. So I think we've done what we were asked to do, which was basically to sort of ventilate the fact that there is a survey out there and people want to pay attention. So that brings us to the special town meeting. And let me just sort of bring you up to date, as I've attended virtually a number of meetings, and the most recent being the planning board meeting on Thursday and the FinCom meeting on Friday. And in both instances, as I've basically watched, I think that what we were trying to do is gather information for today's meeting. Prior to both those meetings, I had written, I think, two letters, which the most recent one I think is in your packet, which basically raised what I thought the key question was. Did not take a position one way or the other, but rather just said, what are before anybody votes for either Article 1 or Article 2, it seemed that the voters ought to have reliable information about what the costs of the cost of one doing nothing with the chance that the appeal might fail, and therefore STRs could be banned on the island. What is the cost of elimination of STRs as a whole? And on the other hand, Article 2 contains significant regulation of STRs, and what are the costs that the island will bear, both in terms of tax receipts and otherwise, if those regulations are put into place, and that it would be sort of irresponsible of government to take do meaningful regulation without considering what the costs are. And here, because we have a town meeting form of government, guess who the government is? It's the town meeting. And the legislators are being asked to vote on some bylaws, some possible bylaws that may have a significant financial effect on the town. And that brings our role into, in my view, in order to fulfill our role of advising the town of matters of concern to non-voting taxpayers, we have traditionally voiced our concern where financial issues are to the fore. And for example, on the Our Island home, which we just discussed, that was a matter that we voiced our concerns on. And so the question, I think, for us today is if what we do going forward with respect to either supporting or not supporting any of the articles. We have under the bylaws, the right to appear at the special town meeting and give our views as well, and whether we do that, and what if we do it, what do we say? So it's very, very broad. Then to just sort of bring you further into it, and I don't know how much I'm repeating for many of you, how much up to date. At the Finance Committee meeting yesterday, the town, Brian Turbot, who is our finance director of the town, presented his analysis of the what he called the most conservative, which in my view means sort of worst case analysis of the effects on town tax collections. You can, we didn't get that until yesterday, and we normally would have posted it so you could easily find it. And you're just going to have to sort of find it yourselves. And I think Kathy has it and can post it online. His.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Maybe some of his conclusions would be appropriate, and then we can move on to discuss this issue as to what or not to be done. I think his bottom line is that there was a likelihood, looking at things conservatively, and making the assumptions that he had to make, because what we're trying to do is predict the future. There was a likelihood that the town would lose something like a minimum of $2.5 million in tax revenues, that is just basically taxes from the STRs. And that would reflect sort of, I think, $42 or $43 million less to people who own STRs in revenue and so forth. So if you go to the next one, that's where the the 2.5 million change, and this is in STR tax receipts. The source is the finance director of the town. We have not seen any sort of careful analysis by anybody else. And so these are the numbers that we have to deal with. And then if you sort of flip down, Kathy, in going as they saying, what would be the effects of loss of that tax revenue to the town? And he laid out a number of, possible scenarios. First of all, apparently, and maybe somebody else here understands Proposition 2.5 better than I do, but it appears that there is a state law, Proposition 2.5, that says you can't increase the property taxes in the town more than what, 2.5% over a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, and so if there were an immediate loss in the magnitude, property taxes, that would be one way. You'd have to increase the property taxes, which would affect us all, both, residents and non-residents. But that under this cap, they couldn't raise the taxes enough to cover the shortfall, the property taxes. And so then you move on to other potential impacts. If you can't, make up the shortfall by raising the property taxes, and they are, basically what I would call the safety net of money that comes into the town to provide for sort of reductions in reserves available in the event of a natural disaster. The natural disasters happen, and that's why you have reserves to cover them. Lowering of the potential lowering of the AAA bond rating that the town enjoys, and that bond rating is what the financial markets use to set interest rates on town borrowing. Of course, if the town were to basically decide to redo the Old Island home under the old proposition, that required borrowing, and a reduction in the financial rating of the town, Moody's rating of the town, would increase the cost of borrowing for that project and any other project, and so on and so forth. And then there are another number of potential impacts, and that would be because you can't raise the property taxes, and it's not clear, according to the finance director, whose job it is to put the budget together every year, how you would fill in the shortfall. And this is basically just the shortfall from the town passing Article 2. Not Article 1, but Article 2, there's the possibility that, reduction in funding to our island home. As I think Patty Deuster mentioned earlier, these entities like our island home, because of the threats to Medicare cuts, Medicaid cuts, and otherwise are very, very dicey situations right now. And part of this was going to be town funding, part of this was going to be, government funding. So reduction in funding to our island home, reduction in funding the Affordable Housing Trust, something that I think we've all supported, the Affordable Housing Trust, reduction or limiting coastal resiliency projects. That's sort of threats to the downtown from sea level rise, and so on and so forth. And so, and this is not, anybody with a dog in this fight making predictions. It's basically the town budgeting director trying to figure out what do we do if Article 2 passes. And so I think that sort of raises the question that we as an advisory committee ought to undertake, and that is what role should we play in all this? And I just want to sort of back up a second and say the planning board is the sponsor of Article 2. And it voted, I think it had a split vote of 4-3
3 to
to
2.
support
3 to
Article
2, I think it was.
3-2,
3-2.
3-2 to support Article 2. And I think then it was a unanimous, was it unanimous vote on Article 1 in terms of whatever. Anyway, I'm sort of getting beyond my recollection. And then the Finance Committee voted to support Article 1, and that was, I think, a 4-3.
Yes, 4-3.
That was 4-3. And then they made a statement as well, and to not support the planning board endorsement of our planning board's Article 2 motion, and that I think was unanimous.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so 7-0,
Yeah.
7-0 is unanimous to not support it. So
Yeah.
that from the finance committee, right?
Yeah, and that's the Finance Committee, in this case, the Finance Committee. So I would propose a discussion on what we need to do, and then we'll do it or do nothing, depending on what you all want to do and say.
Peter has his hand up.
Yeah, so Peter Kahn.
Thank you. I guess I come at this a little bit differently. I've been obviously giving it a lot of thought, as I'm sure others on the committee have. I certainly agree with the concerns on the cost and the fact that this revenue needs to be made up in some other way. But here's how I'm looking at it right now. The most important thing, it seems to me, for the town is to clarify clearly, one way or the other, whether or not you can rent a house, whether it's short-term, long-term, whether you can rent, and that obviously is up. That is the key fact that's before the courts, and that is driving everybody crazy with lawsuits, etc. Now, either one of these will do that, and to me, so I think that part is important, and something needs to pass in that regard as a zoning bylaw. In other words, as a zoning bylaw, there has to be some statement that you can rent here in Nantucket. All right, taking that, then the question in my mind is, how do you proceed from there? And I am concerned about any restrictions in zoning bylaws, much like they have now. There are no restrictions in Article 1. It's a clean zoning bill. Article 2 is not a clean zoning bill. There are a lot of restrictions with regard to number of weeks, number of turnovers, number of total days, etc. And to me, that's dangerous because, as we know, once it's in a zoning bylaw, it's you're grandfathered. And we don't have a hell of a lot of data. We don't have enough data right now, I don't think, to know what's right, what's wrong, and whether we should even be involved. I mean, that's a whole other question, why we as a committee want to be in the weeds to making those kinds of decisions. So for that reason, it seems to me that we would argue that there should, Article 2 should be stricken because it's got all this stuff as a zoning bylaw, that it belongs in. If you want to raise those issues, you raise those issues as a general bylaw next time around in the next town meeting, and you vote it up or down 50%, whatever. And then the next year, if you find that it's not working or it is working, you can make whatever changes you want. So the bottom line is, I would think it's in our interest as for all citizens, but obviously our own non-voting taxpayers to have have clarity on the fact that we can rent our homes, and then have a situation where we are not bound by restrictive that lock us in. So I sort of throw that out. I don't think we've sort of looked at it from that perspective before.
Okay, I
Jean?
appreciate that. Gene?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Peter Kahn, but two things. One, Peter Halley, I think you may have misspoke when you said that number two was sponsored by the planning board. Dave Iverson, who's the chair of the board, was involved with groups from Act Now and wherever it might be to put together number two. But I don't think the planning board really was sponsoring it. And clearly there was almost 40% of their members were against it or whatever that number works out. The other thing is, you know, I'm skeptical about this trying to attach financial numbers to what would happen if you implemented number two. First of all, the town's budget, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And we're talking about
138 million, 138 million. I think.
138 million. So we're talking about less than 2% of the budget. And to try to relate that loss to all of these other issues like affecting the Affordable Housing Trust, et cetera, is real BS, in my opinion. The Affordable Housing Trust has approved funding of $150 million, and they've spent 84 million of it. So that means they still have over 66 million left to spend. So to say that this is going to affect the Affordable Housing Trust is a lot of BS. And that, you know, it's like if your income one year dropped by 2% because a major client decided not to pay you, who knows what, you somehow adjust your spending to that drop of 2%, and the town could easily do that as well. So I'm less concerned about the issue from a financial standpoint and more concerned from the point that Peter Kahn brought up, that once it's in a zoning bylaw, it becomes really difficult to make any changes. And by doing one, you're kind of saying, okay, let's see how it works out. And if we want to, after a couple of years, institute certain modifications, we can. But not to put this all together in hopes of getting 2/3 of the vote at the next town meeting.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have
Gary?
comment, Peter. You know, I watched both of the meetings. I sat through both of those meetings, and the thing that bothered me the most was the restrictions on Article 2, which will basically, you know, the town has spent years trying to build up the shoulder seasons, the result of which is that you have things like the wine festival, the book fair, daffodil weekend, Christmas stroll, all of that. Based on the language currently in Article 2, it means that except for the summer season, which allows a certain amount of rentals, there are 268 days not covered by the summer season, and only, I think it's 21 days can be rented during all of this shoulder season. that will be a disaster to all of these shoulder type events if people are limited from being able to come into town for 3 days for the wine festival or 3 days for the book fair or anything like that. So to me, it's like a no-brainer. Why would somebody try to destroy? And if you're worried about all of the impacts on the town, traffic and all the other stuff you're worried about, you don't worry about that in off season. You don't worry about that when Christmas strolls around, right? And yet they put those restrictions in Article 2. So I think I think, one of the things Brian, the CFO for the town, said that the impact, the next slide, if Kathy wants to show the next slide, so there's a $40 million loss. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about a $40 million loss of revenue for the businesses of the town as a whole in the event that Article 2, warrant Article 2 would be passed. And $40 million is a lot of revenue. I'm not talking about 2.5 million. I'm talking about 40 million. And that's the term that he used. And it's in one of these slides. And I think that's why we should support, number one. And then, of course, hopefully they will go to the town meeting the next time, put in on the general bylaws whatever restrictions people are willing to live with that won't impact the town finances.
Okay, so let me
And
just
you left
say,
off weddings, Gary.
yeah,
But
You left off weddings as a
wedding,
general-
all the wedding, absolutely. All
So,
the shoulder events, they'll be dead in the water.
so let me address two things. Number one, Gene, it is while you were correct, absolutely correct, that Dave Iverson carried the load. It became, the way things are done in town, a planning board motion. It's not a citizen article. It's,
okay.
rather it's the planning board's article. And
I stand corrected.
used the
Peter.
wrong term also that might have, made it not seem right to you. And Gary, on the $40 million, which actually is $42 million,
Yep.
that is just in lost rentals. That does not include the knock-on people not buying meals, not buying T-shirts, not buying ferry tickets, not buying this, not buying that, not buying the other thing. So it's the tip of the iceberg. And so that's, I just want to sort of address those two issues. And I see Donna now has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Peter. The planning board and the select board did vote, even it was close, for some restrictions. And I agree the restrictions are not perfect. But just as if you did number one, article number one, and there were some issues, you could go back in and change it. Oh, I think you could do that with article number 2. If article number 2 passes, you could turn around and say, well, this doesn't work. I think the other sort of broad thing is the planning board and the select board are driven not just by finances. And I guess my concern is, I've been coming to Nantucket for years and it's changed a lot. But my concern is that it's now being driven by finance. Nantucket wasn't really driven by finance, and now it is. And as far as, the $2.5 million, whatever, these people in Brian Turbott's group and so forth, well, you go back to the kitchen, kitchen table economics, and tune it, refine it. So I don't know. you know, that's a comment, but I think we are being driven by finance more and more. I don't know if that's a good thing. Thanks.
Kathy? Thank you, Donna.
Okay, so just a couple things. I think back to the financial side, and I think Peter's right, it is the tip of the iceberg. So the overall economic analysis of a tourist-based economy is complicated, and that's not something that could be done kind of back of the envelope, which is what Brian was able to do in time for the FinCom meeting. He also mentioned things that were not on the chart, which is the community impact fee, which is also a short-term rental only tax paid for by the visitors for when you have two or more properties. So if you have a house and a cottage, or you own separate two properties and rent them, that's an additional tax that was implemented last October. So it has only been in effect for 11 months. It's bringing in lots of money as well. That's in addition to that. He didn't mention it, or the rooms and meals, the meals taxes and so forth. So he was just talking a very significant, insignificant amount. His greater concern, and he wasn't able to verbalize it, is what Peter said, is the impact on the overall economy itself, the jobs that rely on these homes. They also made it very clear, even in the planning board meeting, I think, that the Article 2 is not intended and not expected to fix traffic problems. It was not expected to provide more affordable housing.
Kathy,
That wasn't the what?
you've at least on my audio feed, you've cut in and out.
Okay.
It could be my internet system.
All right, sorry. So I think that was, and I think that the Dave Iverson put this, he was tasked by the select board to talk to people. I was one of the people that he spoke with. And really what he was doing was, in the town's mind, there shouldn't just be an article. What they said was, this is the first time that a citizen article made a special town meeting get called. Normally the town will call one for other reasons, and then citizens submit articles for it. In this case, it was a citizen article that started it off. And so the group that was working on it started off with, there'd been when this discussion was happening in the summer, there had been an article written by Arthur Reed that was sponsored. He was writing it on behalf of the Act Now folks. And he came up with a draft article, and he presented that at the select board. And that's when the town decided they needed to have something of their own. So they had Dave go do that. So he said his goal was to put together something that would give folks that felt very uncomfortable without restrictions to have something to vote on, as opposed to just voting no on one and having no choice. So he basically said it was to give a group of citizens that didn't another choice that they could vote yes on. So that's really why he did it, and then it became the planning board article because he was the worker on that. So the interesting part for me, anyway, was that the article that was originally presented at the select board in July had several components in it, but the one that ended up in the planning board is actually got more restrictions in it than the original one. So I'm not clear on how that became a compromise, because it's more restrictive than the starting point. And for those of us who spoke and made suggestions to Dave during this process, none of the suggestions that we had went in there. So I don't know how it all sorted out. It came out to be what it is. And I think that from what Donna was saying, it's different when you put, and that's one of the things that's very important about understanding a zoning bylaw versus a general bylaw. Zoning is meant to control the use of a home, and simple as Peter Kahn said is better. And we learned this through the short-term rental work group. Any number of regulations you want to have, and we have plenty of regulations now. You cannot be a corporate owner. You cannot be a real estate investment trust. You have a whole bunch of rules you have to live with right now. Maybe they're not sufficient. Maybe we need more, but it's always been the view of the town and and council that it should be those regulations, how you operate that should be in a general bylaw, because you can change it. If you leave it in the zoning bylaw, it requires a 2/3 vote to change it. So you can't be as nimble if the regulations aren't working the way you want. It's much easier to put a general bylaw in, and the general bylaw carries civil penalties, which zoning bylaw cannot. So it's a much more effective way to regulate. That's why it's been done that way. But the folks who provided the input to Article 2 did not feel comfortable with the ability to change those rules once they're in. So I think they want them to stay there, which is why it's actually in Article 2. The same restrictions are in the general bylaw. They made a general bylaw change as well as zoning, and it does provide that kind of thing. So the final point I want to make on the restrictions is that what was I going to say? Oh, there's a concern. There was a lot of concern, and I have it as well. While both articles would moot the lawsuits that's going on, as per town council said, my concern with Article 2, in addition to what Peter said and what Gary said about not knowing what this will do, is that now you've got a homeowner who rents their house, and you've got neighbors. And so let's say the neighbor thinks that they're renting too many days. They're renting more than 49, or they're renting more than 70, or whatever the rules are, or they're doing less than a 7-day minimum. That means ratting your neighbor out. That means calling or challenging through the zoning bylaw, and having somebody come have to vet what you're doing. And most neighbors don't know if someone's in your house, whether it's you or your family or your relatives or your friends, or like what I do with my house is I put it out for silent auction for fundraising for the symphony or for worthy causes. So there'll be people in my house, but they're not paying. They're there because they're there because of a donation. So those kinds of things I don't think we want to have, and that's how else would you enforce something like that? So it's not enforceable except on a complaint basis. The town is not going to staff up a bunch of people who go out and go around and inspect. And we're talking about 11% of the homes on the island are operated as short-term rentals. So to me, it's overkill from that point of view. Thanks.
Okay, so I think now some members of the public, I don't see any other people from the committee who have not had a chance to speak. So I'll just go in the order that I saw the hands go up. And I'm seeing Mike Herlihy and Annie Duez. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name. So Mike, would you go first and Annie second?
Can I just unmute myself?
Sure.
Yep.
You unmuted yourself.
Am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Mike Herlihy, out in Quinnet, 6 Salty Way, over near the Squam Farm. We've been renting a house and a cottage on 3 acres out there for 25 years. And I just want to point out that the devil can be in the details, and we have one example that impacts us fairly severely, and that's in Article 2. They've added some late language to it that says that the number of days that are being used have to apply to both of our homes at once, both of our dwellings at once. So we end up only being able to rent them 35 days each, or in season 24 and a half days each, if you can rent a half a day. This essentially halves the revenue stream we need to break even on the expenses with the property. And it's an invasion of property rights from our point of view. Our case is severe, and it's kind of threatening to legislate us off the island, which we've been there for been coming for 50 years, and with our children, now we have grandchildren, maybe some more after that. So this is a really an existential issue for us individually. We have a rental history of no complaints and plenty of off-street parking, and we're not the problem here, but we're being unintendedly, perhaps, or maybe intendedly, washed out the baby with the bathwater. So I just leave that as an example that there are property rights involved here that may become important later on to people when they're not important now. It may become important to people you want to pass homes on to, et cetera. Thanks very much, and I really appreciate your interest in your work on all of this.
Thank you. Annie, did I mispronounce your last name? You're on mute, so take yourself off mute. You're still on mute.
Okay, sorry.
There you go. Good.
Sorry, sorry. It's actually Anne as opposed to Annie, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Annie. And my last name is Duez, and the most easy way to remember it is the phrase I heard from Posey Constable, "Oh, do as I say, not as I do." So there you go. That's how it's pronounced. I have a few comments that I wanted to make, questions I wanted to answer. First of all, one of the things that I would like to impress upon all of you in the most serious kind of way is that Article 2 is not an Act Now article. People keep trying to identify it, castigate it as an Act Now article. It is not. It is an honest, incredibly hard effort by Dave Iverson to do the best he could as a member of the planning board to bring competing interests together and cobble something together that he thought 2/3 of the voters could potentially vote on. So please, please, all of you who are doing it, please stop calling it an Act Now article. It's very, very hurtful to Dave. Secondly, I just wanted to point out, you talk about what you can and can't do with various kinds of bylaws, zoning and general. Let's just be very clear that if Article 1 were to pass and there were a yes in the use chart for all properties everywhere on the island, that creates a protected class of property owner that will never lose the rights. So if town decides, whoa, we blew it, and wants to come in and create some restrictions, fair restrictions, whoever had been renting up to that time has carte blanche to go on. So I think one of the biggest objections to a yes in the use chart is exactly that. There is simply no going back if we've made a mistake. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. A couple of things that I wanted to comment on from Linda Dolphin's letter. She makes an allegation that there's unfair or discriminatory practice in Article 2 because people who are seasonal can't do hosted stays. Well, that's false because hosted stays can be hosted by an operator, and there is absolutely nothing in Article 2 that prevents any homeowner from having an operator on the premises to act as the host during a hosted stay. So it is not discriminatory in that respect. A comment on high versus shoulder season. I happen to agree that the limit of 7 days during the high season is overly restrictive, and I'm hoping that that will be amended on town floor. It seems to me that homeowners should have the freedom and flexibility to rent for however many days they want. I don't get the 7-day minimum, so I'm with you guys on that one. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that everyone keeps talking about the fact that there's only 21 days left for the shoulder season. That's nonsense. You don't have to rent your house for 7 weeks during the summer. You can rent your house for 2 weeks during the summer or whatever. And the people who are really fussed about that are I think people who are running this house as a business, they want to be able to max out the profitability as opposed to be a homeowner in Nantucket who rents to maintain their home. The enforcement issue, which Kathy brought up. Look, on the one hand, you hear people saying, hey, you know, there's all sorts of mechanisms now to solve nuisance problems like lighting and noise. You just call up the what do you call it? The number that's available on GOV.OS, or you call the police, or you call whoever's responsible for that nuisance. That is citizen vigilance and using citizens to enforce the bylaws. That's no different from somebody observing as a vigilant neighbor that if there were restrictions in place, the house is being rented, you know, whatever, 13 weeks, rather, I guess it's 11 weeks in that high season period than 7. So I don't think it's fair to say that citizens are not part or shouldn't be part of the enforcement. It's the only way anything will get enforced on Nantucket. We know we have an enforcement problem, and I think this is something that the town has to get a lot more serious about. And they have done to a certain extent. We instigated them to write to the platforms and let the platforms know that houses that are on for rent have to have a registration number. Most of them don't. So the town wrote to the platforms and got, you know, I think a cordial reply. We asked the real estate brokers to do the same thing, not advertise properties that don't have registration numbers. So I'm sorry, but citizens are part of any enforcement of any law in Nantucket. And I think that's it for the moment. Thank you very much. I appreciate this forum and the ability for all of you to talk and give your points of view, and for us to also weigh in. So thank you very much for that, and I look forward to the continuing discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And I just have two comments that I thought I'd bring up now based on what you said. First of all, on hosted stays, I know the town council agrees with what you say. He responded to is it Dove, I think, letter or whatever it was, agreeing that hosted stays do not raise the discrimination issue. And so that is something that apparently is not a concern. As for the vested rights that you mentioned, that if Article 1 passes, that somehow creates vested rights, I thought that was addressed by town council at yesterday's FinCom meeting, and that he corrected Dave Iverson, who said the same thing. And that is apparently because, and I'm not a Massachusetts lawyer, so I can't opine on these things, but as I understood what town council said yesterday, was that Article 1, and I think Article 2 as well, may state that the rights conveyed under the zoning law are subject to the control of the general bylaws. And so what Peter Kahn was positing, I think, if that is correct, is that rules in the general bylaws are incumbent on those who have the right to STR. And so passing Article 1, and I'm just saying what I heard town council say, which I think is different from what you just said, does not impinge upon the control, the regulatory control that may or may not be necessary, that could come from a general bylaw. And moreover, the penalties for violating a general bylaw are much, much higher than the penalties for violating a zoning bylaw, up to $5,000 per infringement. So my understanding is that the argument that these vested rights don't make it possible to regulate is according to town council not a correct argument. So that's just if you have other responses, maybe there's a lawyer online who actually practices this stuff, but I didn't want that sort of to float out there without some balance. It's George Spencer. You have
George Spencer here. I'm on the board of ACK now. So I'm sure a lot of you don't like me. Anyway, I wanted to just kind of lay out our view of what the decision tree that the town is facing now. And I think that Iverson deserves a lot of credit here. As it stands right now, there are no short-term rentals are essentially illegal in Nantucket if they're under 31 days. That's the law. That's the state law. And there's an appeal which I think essentially gave the town air cover, not to enforce the law this summer. So essentially, we either have door one, which is that prevails going forward. We have door two, which is Article 1, or we have door 3, which is Article 2. I can tell you that Article 2 was highly, highly negotiated. ACK now is aligned with, depending on sort of who gets the best turnout in the vote thing, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the voters on Nantucket. Okay, you can't pass a zoning bylaw without, without 60% or 66% of the people voting. And we clearly believe that door 0 is not good. We clearly believe door 1 or door 2 is not good. And the door 3 is essentially the compromise. It doesn't, address everybody's needs, but it's probably about as good as we're going to do on an island. And it's time to get this thing behind us. And we felt like now is the time to, strike that deal and get the thing done. So anyway, there you go. So that's kind of what we're faced with here in November.
Okay, thank you, George. I think there's some might disagree with your analysis that the current state of the law is that STR is illegal on Nantucket. There are a number of people who believe that they had the right to STR prior to this case, having owned prior to this case and prior to the 2015 change in the bylaws. And that they have whatever rights were conveyed to them at that point. But that's for another day.
That's their prerogative, and that's fine. I'm just saying.
Exactly. And then just wanted to point out, but you are correct that the current case creates a threat situation. And that's what I think everybody's trying to figure out the best solution for. Mike, let's see, Mike Hurley, and then we'll go to Kathy, and I don't see any other hands up.
Thank you, Peter. Just a couple of balancing comments here. I think it's important to know, we know there are a lot of people in our situation that have spent years trying to have a place like we have, and is really only there to support our families gathering in the summer. And to intimate that we're in it for a profit is absolutely not true. We've broken even for 25 years. And I just take exception to Ann's comment. As I said before, Article 2 and the extra language that was added by the end, I understand by the Land and Water Council, not by Act Now. to the previous comments. Halves our rental stream. So we have to come up with $75,000. It's not easy for us to come up with. And that may sound like a lot of money to a lot of people, but that's what it takes to get gardeners and cleaners and maintain a house that's 25 years old, et cetera. And I don't want to be put into the category of the investment concern, which is already prohibited by prior legislation 2 years ago. So I just leave you with that. I will endorse the fact that Dave Iverson and Tom were very available to us. And I also know that if you call them about our situation, or if you talk to Emily Molden about our situation, they recognize that we're part of the exceptions here that unfortunately have been well behaved and contributed to the island for a long, long time. They get injured by the current state of Article 2. Thank you very much.
Okay, and so Donna, I'm sorry, Kathy, you're next. Donna, and then Peter, and maybe somebody will come up with a motion, and we can. It sounds like people are mostly talked out at this point.
Okay, just quickly, a couple of things that were said by other speakers. I just wanted to clarify, I did not say that Article 2 was an Act Now article. All I was doing was comparing it. The original one that was being proposed, it did not get submitted, had fewer restrictions in it than the one that ended up in the planning board's rules. I'm not saying, I was just comparing the two. The Act Now article had a Y in the in the use column, and the planning board has an A. That's more restrictive. And then the timeframes were different. There was no annual limit of 70 days in the Act Now article originally from July, and that is now in there in the planning board article. So those are the differences, and it's just, I just found it interesting. I agree with you, Anne, on the 7-day thing. That one I think is a tough one. I prefer to rent just for maybe 3 days a week in the summertime, and then my house is empty in the rest of the time, and it gives my son, who lives on island and takes care of our home, a chance to do the turnovers because he works a 7-day week in the summertime when he's there. So it works out for our family to do that, and I also think it makes it affordable for people that cannot afford a whole week on the island. So I think there's a lot of reasons why 7 days, 7-day minimum, forcing me to do a 7-day minimum, to me makes it more noisy or more disruptive to the neighborhood, and I would rather not do that. And back to the hosted stay being non-discriminatory, I think that the way I read that letter that Linda Dolphin sent in was that it's not discriminatory from a constitutional point of view, but it can be considered unfair because yes, an operator can do that, but that assumes that that you're basically, people don't like to do hosted stays, and if you only have a single dwelling on your property, then you're being a room and boarding house kind of thing, and you have to pay someone to be in your house when you're renting it out for a few days, or to make it a hosted stay. It's an unfair thing. It basically discriminates in a way against people with only a single dwelling, because you can't live separately from your renters. And it also is much harder if you don't live on the island to have a hosted stay and do that. So it's just a fairness thing, not discriminatory, I think. And then on the enforcement, on your enforcement concerns, I agree 100% with the things that you said. And you do probably know one of the other hats is as the co-founder of Nantucket Together, and we have worked with the online platforms for years. And I submitted a letter to the town and the Board of Health actually yesterday. I meet with all of the platform people all the time. They are quite happy to, they didn't need to be asked because we had already asked them 2 years ago when the registry came out, to post the registration number for Nantucket. And right now you can do that it is the responsibility of the operator to do that. The problem with it right now, and this is kind of a silly problem, just so you know, is there is no registration number on your certificate when you get it from the town. It is a piece of paper that has your name and address on it, and it has your lot number from the assessor's office, and it has an account number, which is, that's what you log in with if you have one property or 10 properties. So you'd have that same account number, and then your lot number is just your property. It doesn't identify, like in Mike Herlihy's case, which dwelling has the license. So we know that the system collects a unique identifier for each STR, but they don't reveal that to the operator, and so you cannot post it. You don't even know what it is. So we're working with the town to get that fixed, because it's not helping. It's not correct. And the other thing is that the town is collecting the number of days when you apply for your license. It says, tell us how many days you rented in the prior year. It doesn't define what that means. Is that the prior calendar year? Is that the prior 12 months from the date you put your application in? What does that mean? So people are asking that, and we need to get that answered so that that data the town collects is accurate. So I just wanted you to know that enforcement is, I don't think you'll get any argument from anyone that enforcement is not an issue, and it shouldn't be, and it should be addressed, and that anybody who's a well-behaved renter is going to be absolutely for that enforcement. So thank you.
Okay, so Peter Kahn is next, and I see Donna's hand is up and Ann's hand is up again. And it seems to me we're really getting into a lot of weeds here that are, maybe not appropriate for the decision we need to make today. And so I would ask people to kind of sharpen up so that everybody can go to lunch.
Okay.
Peter.
Thank you. I'm gonna make a motion here in a moment. I just want to being a compromise. This is a word that's being used frequently, and I thought it was interesting as one listened, and as I did, and I know others have as well, to the planning board and to the finance committee. It is not a true compromise, because what the fact of the matter is that at past town meetings, for lack of a better term, the non-restrictive citizens articles have gained most recently over 60%. They have not reached the 2/3, but they've reached over 60%, and they've been increasing consistently. And so what's happened now is the idea is, okay, well, we can, and I think someone said that we can act now, as I think Mr. George said, I don't know last name, said, well, look, this is to get act now sign in on this. And they'll get it across the finish line. If you have these quote unquote compromises, which are, of course, these restrictions that Gary Beller clearly showed, we're going to have a serious economic impact. Can somebody mute themselves? There's noise coming. Thank you. Which Gary, which Gary.
Everybody on, please mute your own phones, because we're getting feedback or crosstalk or something from somebody or other.
Thank you. The point being that as Gary indicated, that these quote unquote compromise would do away with all rentals effectively in the shoulder season. To say that people should forego renting in the high season because they could rent in the winter doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's put a fine point on this now. I would move as follows. That the ACNVT endorses the Article 1 for purposes of a zoning bylaw to make clear that rentals in Nantucket are legal under the zoning laws, and to, as a result, moot the existing lawsuits, and that we do not support Article 2 at this point, because we believe that any restrictions should be as part of the general bylaws, which would allow the town to get better data, which would then also have impact on the economic issues that we've been talking about, and B, not be impossible to overturn later if they remain in a zoning bylaw. So that's my motion. Support Article 1 as a zoning bylaw and not support the zoning Article
Okay,
2.
so let's boil it down to that,
Yeah.
because otherwise it violates.
Yeah.
We'll have a 5,000 word.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. Okay.
So what I've got is the ACNV endorses Article 1 to make clear that STR, or actually that it's beyond STR, just rentals is, I think
Right.
that's what you said, that rentals are legal under zoning laws
In Nantucket.
in Nantucket. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to say ACNVT does not support Article 2 at this point, and because regulations should be part of the general bylaws and based on a rational basis, or something,
Or data, further data, based on data that we're still accumulating, whether it's financial or otherwise.
I just have based on data
Okay, that's
at this point. That's the idea, is that it needs more information to do it appropriately.
Yeah.
I think
your second.
okay. So let me just repeat that and correct me if I've got this wrong. There's a motion that the advisory committee endorse Article 1 to make clear that rentals are legal under zoning laws in Nantucket, and to not support Article 2 at this point, because, yeah, I guess not support Article 2 because any further regulation of rentals should be in the general bylaws.
Period.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and there's a second. Of course, we need discussion, and I guess I have not, I don't know the formalities of things. I haven't closed discussion. I know there are two hands up from before, and Ann and Donna, and just, I guess, quickly hear from them, and then we can go to any further discussion on this motion and have a vote. So, Ann, I think I saw your hand up first, and Donna, I saw your hand up second.
Thank you. Very quickly, I just wanted to apologize to Mike because I certainly did not mean to imply that many families who rent are strictly driven by profit. Obviously, that's not the case. And when my family had a house in the 60s, we rented because we needed to have money to maintain it. And there are many, many, many renters like Mike, but there are many, many, many renters who are not like Mike and are totally exclusively profit driven, and they're not necessarily corporations. 70 nights, we'll see. So I heard you at both the planning board and the finance committee yesterday, and you speak very well. And I just wanted to apologize if you thought I was being nasty to you. I really was not.
Okay, let me just, Tony, I think I on behalf of Mike, I accept your apology. I want to say something that has impressed me about Nantucket, and that is how articulate everybody is, well-spoken and thoughtful, and I think everybody's really trying to get to a happy resolution of this, and there's just there are differences of opinion that need to be sorted out, and the town meeting hopefully will sort them out. But and I appreciate your good manners, and I hope we all reflect those good manners. Donna, you had something to say? If you do.
No, I lowered my hand. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. So is there any discussion on the motion that has been seconded on the floor? So, Jean? You're muted. You need to unmute yourself. Thanks.
Just one question. Somebody earlier in the discussion said that if alternative one is approved by town meeting, and somewhere down a year or two from now, the town decides to make some changes, add maximum number of days, whatever, that those people who have already rented would not be affected. Is that correct or
No,
incorrect?
incorrect. And I think Peter addressed that, because town council at the meeting yesterday at FinCom made that clear because as Peter mentioned, Dave Iverson made that argument, and he said it was not correct.
General bylaws apply across the board to everybody on the day that they're passed. So there's no grandfathering associated with them or anything. They are across the board, apply to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or further discussions of the motion that is on the floor? Do I need to reread it? Kathy, do you sort of have it, or I'll reread it. It may sound slightly different, but it's materially not. The motion is that the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers endorses Article 1 to make clear that rentals are legal under zoning laws in Nantucket, and that the ACNVT does not support Article 2 at this point.
No, strike at this point. I mean, we don't support Article 2.
Article 2, because any further regulation of rental should be in the general bylaws. Period.
All right.
Okay. So that's the motion that is on the floor. It's been discussed. So all those in favor.
Peter, may I suggest to do this the way we are required to? Please go through the list of
roll
members and
Roll
get
call
approval.
vote, yeah.
Otherwise, somebody will say the vote wasn't legal.
Right.
Thank you. Nothing like being a general counsel, right, Gary? So I'll just go on the list as I have it here. Kathy Baird.
Yes.
Yes. Scott Ulm.
Aye.
Okay. Patty Deuster.
Yes.
Gary Biller.
Aye.
Yeah, is that yeah? Okay, got it.
Yes.
Yeah. Peter Kahn.
Aye.
Lou Bisano. Lou, I guess we went to
Oh,
Greener.
he said he had to drop off, so maybe he did.
Don Green.
Yes.
Pam Swan. Gene Briskman.
Yes.
Donna Martino.
Okay.
Michael Coney's not here. Lynn Felicipy's not here. Steve Perlman.
Yes.
Gardner's not here, and I vote yes. So it passes unanimously by those on the committee who are here today, which happens to be more than a quorum. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Peter, for crystallizing this in a sensible way. Thank you for those that have commented. I thought the comments were helpful and useful. So let's now go on to the next item on the agenda, which is, let's see, I think we'll postpone until later key concerns for non-voting taxpayers because we are really toward the end of our time schedule. Um, uh, any further information from the PR committee? And by the way, it was, I think from attendance today and other things, it was uh, you got us into all of the media in terms of letting people know that this was happening.
Well, thank you, but I did notice that Kathy commented this morning that the Current actually had the meeting as a Zoom. It was Daybreak that had the meeting as a Zoom. And I hope there's nobody who, I'm sorry, had the meeting at the trailer rather than as a Zoom. So I hope nobody's still waiting at the trailer. But we did have 19 visitors today, and I just would take a minute if any of them wish to say how they hear about this, or are there ways that you feel that our organization, the Advisory Committee of Non-Voting Taxpayers, could be more effective?
Well, it's
Hi.
hard to. Hi.
I'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Alexa Curtis. This is my first time joining one of these meetings. I'm so happy to join. I'm on Main Street, and the topics discussed today were very useful. I did attempt to go to the meeting in person based on the Daybreak address, which was also published as the wrong address. It was published as 113 versus 131. So I just want to call that out as well. So I've gone through my hazing for the town meeting. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you for everyone in the discussion today.
Well, it's it. Thank you. Thank you, Alexa. Now, just in defense of Steve, who he's hired me to represent him on this, the information he sent out was correct, and it's editorial issues with
Absolutely.
they published, and sorry that they had some not correct information.
So sorry for joining late, but appreciate what I was able to listen to today. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else?
Mike Hurley.
Yeah.
This is the second full meeting that I have attended, and I just compliment you. I mean, 80% of us who love Nantucket are in the non-voting column, and this dialogue and its conclusions are really a necessary ingredient to have a full community. And that's what we have to do today in this world we live in this country we live in, is strengthen our communities. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks. Thanks. There's
one more person here.
Yeah. Oh, Robert Golzer.
Yeah, hi. Been a long time non-voting resident, and this is the first time I've come. The publicity in the wherever I read it online somewhere that had the right Zoom was easy to use, and I found the meeting very, very, very helpful in understanding the issue. So thank you very much, and it was worked very well.
Great, thank you. Anybody who
There's another person.
Christina Strand, but that.
Yeah, I'm not Christina. I'm Brad. You asked about where we heard about this. And my wife heard about this on the ACT.net website. There was an article there called Non-Voting Taxpayers Meet Saturday to Discuss Special Town Meeting. So that's where we heard about it.
Great, great. Good. So for those of us who are looking at the action today, you realize we only have a voice, we don't have a vote. And what we try to do is take principled positions that are helpful and hope that we can be viewed as a committee as a trusted advisor to the select board and other committees of the on the island. We're happy that you can be part of what we're doing. Thank you.
Peter, two things. One is John Delano's got his hand up, and the other thing is before we got off the STR topic, we need to, are you going to town meeting to represent us? So you need to appoint somebody so you can.
Okay, so I will likely appoint somebody. I think under the bylaws, that is my prerogative. let me tell you what I'm thinking of. I'm not sure that I can make it up there myself. I think Peter has already said he's going to be someplace else that day. And there is a, a non-voting taxpayer who I think is well known to the town. I mean, I've not discussed this with the person, so I don't want to, you know,
I wouldn't
make any
trouble.
surprise, who is a very good speaker and again, a trusted person on Nantucket who I am going to reach out to in the first instance to see if this person is willing to appear at town meeting. And I can, you know, I will let you all know what my thinking is. Kathy, I think you're planning on being there or not?
Well, I'll be on Nantucket, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another, if that's something you're willing to do, that's another possibility. Um, but I've got some thoughts on the subject, and I think they're thoughts that will be agreeable to people. But I just at this point I haven't cleared it with the person that I'm thinking about. John,
Required that it be a member of the committee, Peter?
from what it's just, I believe the bylaw says, I
It's
looked
not
at it
required
recently,
for you.
my designee.
Yes,
Yeah,
chair or
yeah,
designee.
yeah.
Someone waiting, Peter. Jill Veith.
I'm
Peter, am I recognized? I'll speak if you
yeah,
are.
yeah, I recognize you.
Thank you. John Delano here, 45-year non-voting taxpayer on the island since 1979. And I really just wanted to say thank you to Peter, really the whole gang of people. I remember I've attended meetings over the number of years, certainly when Gary was chairing for quite a while, and very much appreciate the great deal of time and attention that each of the members of this group take part in and participate in. I was impressed, Peter, Hallie. I've seen you at all the meetings this past week. You gave a lot of your time just to be present on behalf of the organization, and I appreciate that. So I wanted to just express as somebody who has been had a home on Nantucket since 1979, how much I welcome and appreciate the work that this committee does. I did want to suggest, I don't know whether you do this or have thought about this in terms of communications, but I really love the growing outreach effort that Steve and others are making. And I'm just wondering, have you ever thought of just putting together an email list
It's
of people like us?
yeah, it's hard.
And by consent, of course. But if you had an email list of 25, 30 names, everybody who's on now, or just ask people if they want to get an invitation to join a meeting, just sign up.
Well, John, one way of doing it, and I hate to volunteer, well, I'm not volunteering Kathy, but we could suggest that
Poor Kathy, she
people
does everything.
who want to be notified of meetings, and I can't guarantee that this will actually happen, but maybe send a request in to Kathy. Kathy, is that okay?
Well,
And
actually the best way to do it
yeah,
is through the town's website. I hate to say that, but that is really the formal way that you get notified. You create yourself an account under the town's website. If you go to their meetings or any of the meetings, it'll give you a little instructions of how to do that. And you sign up and say, it gives you all the list of every single committee meeting that the town has, and you can just pick the ones you want to be notified about, and you will get the agenda with the Zoom links in it, and you will get the agenda packets automatically sent to you by the town. So that gets me out of the loop, and it's probably the more official way to do it with open meeting law and everything. I can, send out instructions or send out a link for anybody who wants to know how to do it. That would probably be
That's
better.
very helpful. That's helpful, Kathy. And thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone. Thank you.
thank you. So I saw Jill Veith's hand up and it just disappeared. Jill, are you still on someplace?
She's there.
Hmm?
Yes, I'm still here. I have to run out and get my husband from the boat, so I'm sorry, but I only caught some of this meeting, and I apologize. I've had some meetings on this week, so I'm
Yeah.
a little tired. But I just wanted to let you all know I appreciate what you do, and I very much value the communication that you have with the finance committee, and the finance committee values that. So you had sent the letter, Peter. Both Peters, I see you at meetings, all of you that attend. I appreciate you doing that because I know you're in a very unique situation, but we do listen to you and we hear you, and keep that coming because I think it's so important. It's so important.
Well,
Thank
thank you. It's a mutual admiration.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We need to hear from you. I think you all know that I'm probably going to try and talk about property taxes at some point this year if I can. I'm getting shorter on time. I can't believe how quick the year goes, but I am going to try and, shed some light on that at some point, and hopefully we will discuss it in the future.
Great.
Thank you.
So Steve, you're next, and then Donna.
Yeah, my camera's not working today, but I just wanted to tell John, I do send these to the Current, to Daybreak, and to Inky, and they have been pretty good about posting them. Although Daybreak did have an error that they went to their old language, but. And the other thing is I wrote down all the names, and I'm sort of happy to maybe perhaps work with you, John, to have us develop this list, which would be different. I know the town is the most efficient, but I think we're happy to have names of people who are interested in what we do.
Happy to help, Steve, any way I can.
Yeah, I think doing it both ways, Steve, is a good idea. I did what Kathy did, is sign up for the committees that I'm interested in, and it's been very helpful as a aide memoir, who's meeting when. But I also think that we have an interest in knowing who is sort of interested in what we're doing, and keeping in contact with them. So good. Donna?
Yeah, I just wanted to actually say something similar that Steve and John brought up. It is time. We've been kicking around the idea of having our own email list, and we really should do that. So, Steve, John, if you want some extra help, I'm offering my assistance.
Yeah.
It's important to communicate to those folks, and if they can't make a meeting, this way they're aware of what's going on and the topics we cover.
Great. Gene?
Yeah, I would agree. We've often talked about trying to do surveys of the community, and if we built up this mailing email list, we could use it even if there's 20 or 25 people on it as a starting point for trying to better survey the community that we serve.
So here's
I
the
agree with that, but we really
$64,000
have-
question.
We have to really follow the town's rules. We are a town committee. We don't have a place to store materials or to create an email list unless it's under a personal account of one of ours. So I think we have to be careful.
So here's the question then. Unless there's some sort of privacy issue, I wonder if we can just ask the town who has signed up to get our, notices. And that would be a way of bridging this gap.
Lots of ways to do it. I just think we need to touch base with them and see what we're allowed to do. That's all.
So let's do that. So let's see, confirm. So when will we meet next? We obviously have this special town meeting that is coming up. Is it November 4th?
Yeah.
And so I don't think we have a need to meet before November 4th. And it is getting to be the winter season. So who do we have a schedule for future meetings at this point, or do we need to make one? No. So why don't we make a sort of sometime in mid to late November, but not interfering with Thanksgiving. Maybe we just need to have a placeholder just in case something comes out of this meeting that.
Well, why don't we take the Saturday after the town, what's it, the
Yeah, the 15th.
15th would be good. Well, the 8th is not, I know the 8th is not good for me. Well, either one, yeah, I get neither. 8th is very tough for me. 15th might work.
Okay.
So do the 15th.
I can't do that. Let me just check. My niece is getting married that day. I
No,
think
that's not
I'm
good.
at the wedding,
Yeah.
but in Rhode Island. Let me just see. No, it's in the afternoon. I could do the 15th.
Okay, so when we'll just sort of sketch out the 15th, and then if we have something, we'll duly notice prior to the 15th and let people know. Okay. Any?
Peter,
Yeah.
Jean and I have been talking about housing, and I wonder if we could put, and possibly having some speakers related to housing on the island, and I wonder if we could set that as the guest speakers for that meeting, or the
Okay.
discussion
Yeah.
topic.
Tom Dixon?
Yeah.
Well, he's sort of new to it, but Christy Ferrantella maybe, or
We've had Christie here. But yeah, I think just a review.
Rebecca Holland, or
Yeah, we had
or
Christy,
Ann Cruspa from
Christie is the best. Christie is the best because
Yeah.
she's ahead of all of that for the island. Now.
Yeah. So, and then we had her when she was on the
Blackboard.
Blackboard, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a while ago. So I will ask her, and maybe somebody would send me some other names in case she can't do it. And
I strongly advise people, if they haven't seen that movie, I don't know, I think you can watch it at home for $7 right now.
And actually, Gene, I have the links to both the 2-minute trailer, which is free, and the 90-minute movie, which is $7. But it's really important and would, I think, be a good thing for folks to watch before this discussion.
okay, and I will ask whether
movie?
we can. The question is
movie?
on this advertising something, whether we are allowed to do that through our public notices. And advertising for a for-profit sort of thing.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's a for-profit. I think it's.
No, it's not.
The Dreamland is nonprofit, I think.
Well, it's not the Dreamland.
Not
It's
the
with
Dreamland.
the
Yeah.
directors.
It's whoever. But I'll.
It was an
if somebody can do a
educational.
little investigate. Let me know. And Steve, thank you for bringing this up because I know you and you all brought this up earlier, and it just sort of slipped my mind at this time. And it's something we should do.
What's the name of the movie?
It's called
Room for Us.
Room for Us.
Room for Us. It was filmed just recently on Nantucket by a student group, and they interview lots of people who are dealing with difficulties in finding housing and living in
That's terrific.
affordable housing.
Where do you access?
It's really a wonderful film.
Where do you access it, Gene?
I have it by email, and I am Steve Perlman at Gmail, just like my name appears. If you want to email me, I can send it to you. I can send you.
I will, Steve. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye-bye.
Well, once we get back to being Duxbury residents, we should join that group.